I'm not into the primetime games. I'm just not. This is RamView.
It's hot out there. Let's blow them off the line of scrimmage. Headline, Los Angeles.
Live from the Ram Cave, I'm Joe Terosian, and this is RamView, the May 17th, 2024 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident? Need help? Got questions? Call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. That's one word. KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92, and I'm here to tell you. And by Temple City Auto Repair, having some auto issues, get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. And of course, by Granite Ridge Christian Camp, a place where your life can change. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. Rams schedule, we're going to break that down going towards the back half of the show a little bit. So some of your questions about the schedule, you can get them in a little bit later. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Rams schedule, go a little bit around the NFL and other places. It's mostly Harrison Butker. And then we're going to take a look at Rentzel, Brooks, and Jones, and as we look back at the Rams' history. But right off the top, what I said at the beginning, I'm just not a fan of the primetime games. I mean, they're cool. That's cool, right? Okay, you know. But everyone was all just kind of amped up 5 primetime games, and another one could be flexed in so you get the maximum of 6. And okay, I guess it's cool. You know, my thing about the primetime games is I think they suck out some energy. I really do. I think they suck out some energy, and I guess some of that's good, but, you know, you get so focused on everyone being there that you could stumble in New England. You could stumble in Arizona, right? If that game against the Jets at the end of the season, towards the end of the season, which is scheduled for 10 a.m., you know, it doesn't amount to much, and the Jets are as bad as the Giants were last year, you could have another, 26-25 affair where we had to hold on for dear life. And so I don't think a game should be that close, right? But it can wear you out, all the big primetime games. And I do have some issues a little bit. I like the Rams schedule. I hate the bye, but that's pretty universal. Everyone hates that week 6 bye. But, you know, the Rams, I'll get into it, the schedule here, but all that energy is going to be placed on that Lion game opening. And I'm glad it's first. I really am. Let's get it out of the way, because losing week 1 or winning week 1 does not determine the rest of your season. I don't think it does, because usually by week 15, it's long forgotten. Anyway, could care less about that. Rams schedule is out. Everyone's getting all jazzed about that. I get it. It's cool. We get to break it down and get a realistic view of what the season could look like. We talked about it the last episode, the 3 Rams that hadn't signed of their draft picks, Jared Verse, Cam Kitchens, and Brennan Jackson. Well, Kitchens and Jackson have signed. It's just a matter of time before they sign all these guys. You know, all these draft slots are pretty much slotted, and so it'll get worked out. It's not like the old days. If you were a Ram fan, you remember the long holdouts. It's like, oh, well, this guy signed. Is he coming in? Also, another Ram news, again, before we get to all the schedule stuff, Rams promoted Aubrey Pleasant to assistant head coach from defensive passing game coordinator. I think it's a pretty good move. Guy's been around for a while. He took that little sojourn to Detroit, came back to the Rams. He's been in the building for a long time. So that part's good. He's competent. He's qualified. That part's good. You don't get promoted in the McSneed administration unless you're qualified. And Aubrey Pleasant, it would be really good, just the way the NFL rules work with the Rooney Rule. If Aubrey Pleasant gets a, you know, I don't know if it's going to be an HC job or he gets a significant front office job like a GM somewhere in a couple years, the Rams are going to cash in with a couple of picks. And as they did with Brad Holmes at Detroit, as they've done with Raheem Morris, now the HC in Atlanta. So good to see. You know, it's a guy that's been in-house. It's kind of like we weren't crazy initially about the Chris Shula hiring, right? But the guy's been in the house for 3 defensive coordinators, right? Wade Phillips, Brandon Staley, and Raheem Morris. The guy's been around since 2018. He knows the system. And better yet, the Rams know him, and he's not going to get the gig if the Rams don't know him. And that's kind of the lost thing here. And someone brought this up, oh man, over a year and a half ago when they were talking about when the Rams were struggling and they were kind of ignoring it was the offensive line meltdown in 2022. And they were saying, another problem for McVay, he keeps having to replace these assistant coaches because he's got a pretty significant coaching tree. But what they're forgetting is all these aspiring coaches all want to work for McVay because they've seen the track record. So the people applying to be on Sean McVay's coaching staff aren't Joe T from El Monte. It's these high-end guys, and he gets to pick from the best. And so this is all good for the Rams. And so, again, another reason why Ram fans should appreciate the season they're in terms of this is kind of like, a golden age of where they're at. So that's good news. Around the NFL and other places, I did want to say this before we get into Harrison Butker. The Vikings signed tight end Robert Tonyan. And Tonyan played for the Packers, had some nice years there with Aaron Rodgers, and then he was in Chicago, and now he's with the Vikings. If he can just get a cup of coffee with the Lions before his career ends, he'll have the AFC North Grand Slam. And Tanyan's not a bad guy, but he's been banged up, injuries and everything. I just thought that was interesting, seeing he's on his third AFC North team. And that tells you what AFC North people think of him. They see him twice a year, and he's a solid tight end. Not great, but I don't know if that moves the price of lettuce. And then there's Harrison Butker. He's been all over my social media for the things he said that are so offensive. And I think people have pointed out rightly, it's like, the NFL, again, I think we talked about this a little bit on Wednesday, comes out in a statement against Harrison Butker, but they've said jack about Rashee Rice, right? They can't get anything right, but they can get Harrison Butker right. I think they need to talk to the Yale grad or the Dartmouth grad or the Ivy League grad who's kind of in their office, and Goodell needs to clean up his act a little bit and take control of his ship. But then everyone's piling on. Kelly Stafford joins in, and I don't know. I think Kelly Stafford's a good woman and everything, but she joined in on her thing, piling on Harrison Butker. And all of a sudden, I don't know, not all of a sudden, but my feeling is it's like, I got to kiss butt. I got to make sure I'm with everybody else, because if I stand outside the herd, if I'm outside the mob, they're going to hang me as well. And note to Kelly Stafford, you don't go through enough intersections, girl. You don't go through enough intersections, they're going to hang you any chance they get. So trying to side with the elites on Harrison Butker is ridiculous. And kind of cool is teammate Chris Jones. Yeah, that Chris Jones in the 30 Rock category. Teammate Chris Jones came out in support of Harrison Butker, his teammates. And several other teammates have come out and said something as well in support of him. And if the Chiefs want to screw it up, go dance the other way and see what happens. You're going to suffer for this in Kansas City, in the Midwest. But here's my thing. You don't have to agree with what Butker said. You don't have to like what Butker said. But here's the deal that Kelly needs to learn, The View needs to learn, and Roger Goodell's office need to learn, right, is that the cap comparisons are weak. Butker was not in uniform. Butker was not in the workplace. Butker was on his own time. So kiss my mask on those comparisons. It's preposterous, right? And he did make a statement here that I fully agree with when he said women have had the most diabolical lies told to them. Let me tell you, in my day job that I don't talk too much about here, I know that for a fact because I've been across tables from them when they've had their lives destroyed and ruined, and things that they said were all going to be good weren't all good, and all these things that the radical movements have told them, and they leave them hanging out to dry the second they're not a candidate or an asset to them. You're completely thrown off the boat. Does anyone remember Sandra Fluke? Right? She served a purpose. And then she was gone, right? Same thing with some of those women that were protesting the war, which is fully their right. The left embraced them, but when they didn't need them, they cast them aside. So Butker was absolutely right, but he has every right to say what he wants. Colin Kaepernick has every right to say what he wants to say, and all the protesting he wanted to do and the socks he wanted to wear and all the stuff he wanted to say, as long as he's not in the company uniform, as long as he's not at the workplace, because he did that in San Francisco. He did it in Frisco, of all places. And it created a controversy. That's not the case with Butker. And so Kelly Stafford, girl, they're going to hang you. You don't go through enough intersections. So watch which herd you join with. So I'm Joe Terosian. I'm a sports writer for 21 years, and I am going to stay in my lane. That's the last I'm going to say about that. But it was just basically what I do is I read the Rams stuff, and then I see what fills my social media feed when it comes to football. And Butker's all over the place. And it was interesting to see 30 Rock plus defensive lineman Chris Jones fully supporting his kicker. So anyway, I've been a sports writer for 21 years. Was one of the leading guys that started Mid-Valley Sports. And those guys are still in football. They're covering the Chargers. I served as a sports editor at Mid-Valley News and worked on various websites. And now I do RamView, and I write books. And thanks to our sponsor at Kistler Law. And I've written 7 books. My 8th one is coming out hopefully before the month is over. We're working on the cover right now. Looking forward to getting Game Day in the Ram Cave out and into your hands. And I do all that because it supports me in my day job, that place where I meet the women who've been let down by what society and culture have told them, the ones who don't go through enough intersections. That's why I pastor a small church in Burbank called Burbank Faith Nazarene. And you can follow us on Burbank Faith Virtual, our channel, as well as burbankfaithvirtual.com, Burbank Faith Virtual, all across social media, Facebook, Twitter, and all that kind of stuff. And I get to do RamView now, and I'm so blessed, and it's so great. Let's see who's clicked on. Let's see if we got any questions. We're going to get right into the Rams schedule as soon as we're done here. Let's see. All right. Biozayo, greetings. Nice. Thank you for having me in your day. Emmanuel Correa, what's up, Manuel? I'd rather lose that Lions game than beat them in the playoffs. I'd rather lose that Lions game than beat them in the playoffs. I think you mean meet them in the playoffs, right? And then beat them in the playoffs. Yes, I agree fully with you, and their heads become enormous. Bill, I think Audrey Pleasant is going to be a future 3rd-round compensatory pick for the Rams. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the pattern, right? But I don't think the Rams just promote guys. I think they do it because these are good dudes. These are dudes that know football. And maybe when he went to Detroit, he wasn't slotted where he needed to be. I think he was in D.C. I think he was the defensive backs coach. They didn't have a lot of talent there, and he lost his job. But again, I think that was experience outside of the company. This is one of the things we learn everywhere. You got to leave the nest sometimes and get out there and see other places before you can maybe come back home or where you started. And so, I think Aubrey Pleasant's a guy to keep an eye on in the next few years. All right, let's look at that Rams schedule. Guys, keep firing questions as it goes, and we'll answer them when we get there. But here's the Rams schedule. I'll go through the schedule, and then I'll break down my thoughts. I got about 10 or 12 thoughts to throw out there. On September 8th, they open up in Detroit, Sunday Night Football. And then September 15th, they go to Phoenix and play the Cardinals. September 22nd, they play the 49ers at home. September 29th, week 4, they go to Chicago for a 10 a.m. game against the Bears. And then you get this nice run at home, weeks 5, 6, 7, and 8. They're not traveling anywhere. October 6th, they're playing the Packers. October 13th, they're playing bye. October 20th, they get the Raiders. And then they get October 24th, they get a Thursday night game against the Vikings at home. And then on first week in November, they play the Seahawks up in Seattle. And then week 10, Dolphins, Monday Night Football. Week 11, New England. That's November 17th, a 10 a.m. game. November 12th. Not November 12th. Week 12, November 24th, they get the Eagles at home for Sunday Night Football. Week 13, December the 1st, they go to New Orleans. And then in week 14, December the 8th, they get the Bills at home. And then they get back-to-back road games here. Week 15, December 12th, they get the 49ers on Thursday Night Football. And then they get like this mini bye, and December 22nd, they go to the Jets. They go to New York to play the Jets in that 10 a.m. game. And then week 17, they're at home against the Cardinals. Week 18, they're at home against the Seahawks. So here's some thoughts about that schedule that kind of came to mind. 3 of the Rams' first 4 games are on the road. That's good. Let's get those road games out of the way early. Rams have a 9-8 differential, so they got 9 home games this year, 8 on the road. The first month of the season, they get 3 of them out of the way. So that's a good deal right there. That's a good deal right there. They get the Cards, they get the Lions, the Cards, Bears. I do like them getting the Lion game out of the way early because, as Bill was kind of talking about, it's going to have playoff emotion, but not playoff payoff, meaning the Rams could lose or win, but the final scoreboard will have little bearing on the season in the long run. Yeah, you get the W in the column, which everyone wants, but you could have anything happen that opening night and still come back and have a great season. And they're going to be so amped up. And for the Lions to get the victory, I think it's going to feel like a playoff win for them. They're going to be so jazzed. For a little bit more veteran of a Rams team, I think they'll shake it off and move forward. But like I said, it's going to have that playoff emotion, but you're not going to get that playoff payoff, as Bill was talking about, or I'm sorry, I think it was Manuel was talking about. And yeah, I don't care if you lose to them now. I don't want to lose, and I don't think the Rams have to lose. And we'll break down that game as we get closer to it. But the Rams very easily could win this game. But if they lose this game, it's not the end of the world, which I could just see what happens. Rams lose 36-31, and people go, oh, McVay didn't play anybody in the preseason. They weren't ready to hit. They weren't ready. You can hear it already in Rams culture. But what has me worried a little bit is the fact that well, let's keep going. That Cardinal game is a 1-hour flight. So Rams open in Detroit, then they go to Phoenix to play week 2. So that's really cool. 2 are out of the way earlier. And then the 4th game is against the Bears at Soldier Field in September. That was one that had me really kind of like, I don't want to see Caleb Williams after week 10 when he's got all the rookie jitters out of him, right? And I don't want to see the Rams there when they're playing in the cold. I still remember, was that 2017, 2018 when the Bears worked the Rams? I think it was 2018. The Bears worked the Rams pretty good in the cold there at Soldier Field. But a September game in Soldier Field at 10 a.m., I'm all over that. I think that's a great schedule there. And then, of course, they got the 49ers in week 3. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But after that Bears game, which is the 4th week of the season on September 29th, the Rams don't go back on the road again until November 3rd. All of October, they're at home. 4 weeks. They get a bye, and then they get the Packers, Raiders, and Vikings at home. So there is a toughness to the schedule, I believe. Those aren't all give-me teams. I think the Raiders, you're not going to mess around with the Raiders. I think they're going to struggle, but I think they can hurt you, right? And stuff. But you're getting all these teams at home. Now, again, it's kind of sus. I use the word sus. It's kind of sus when you call something the Rams do a home game. But I think slowly but surely, after 9 seasons, this being the 9th season back, some of that crowd is starting to tilt back into actual Ram fans. Again, don't like the bye in week 6. It's too soon. But you know what? Someone had to take it, and we'll see, right? Maybe it gives the rookies, because there's so many young guys on this team, a chance to reset early for the back half of the season to understand, like, hey, man, we're not in Tallahassee anymore, and so maybe it does the Rams good to be at week 6. I don't like it, but maybe it does to have that week 6 bye. The game early on that's really concerning me actually is the one against the Cardinals, because that's a game you should win. Right? You could lose to the Lions on opening night, and okay, that happens, and you go forward. You can lose to the 49ers, but you get a crack at them again later in the season when their age and injuries all catch up with them. And the Rams have won in Levi Stadium. Okay, but that Cardinal game, the Rams should beat the Cardinals twice this year, but that Cardinal game feels like a trap, coming off the emotion of the Detroit game and between build-up for the real division rival, which is 49ers, and that that Cardinal game is concerning to me because I think they're a much more competitive team. I don't think they're very good, but they showed last year they will play hard. After the Seahawks game on November 11th, the Rams get an extra day because of rest because they're playing the Dolphins at home the following Monday night, and that's an extra day for McVay. It's an extra day to be healthy. And Dolphins don't scare me; they just don't. And so that's a good aspect of this. They're getting that Monday night game, and it's with an extra day of rest. Week 11, the Rams get the 10 a.m. game in New England. That will be on November 17th. So it might be chilly, but it won't necessarily be blizzard season, right? And so I think that's a scheduling win right there. So 2 of those 3 cold area games are out of the way by week 11, Chicago and New England, and it leaves only the Jets later in the season where you could be playing in some serious weather. Week 12, which is November 24th, Rams get the Sunday night football game at home against the Eagles. And I like that matchup. As of right now, this game doesn't scare me. Rams played well against the Eagles a year ago. A couple things go their way, and they could have beaten the Eagles last year. And I have doubts. I do. I'm not sold on Jalen Hurts. I'm just not. And I've never been sold on Saquon Barkley. I think they're both good, but they don't scare me, right? It's not like you're playing Patrick Mahomes, which should scare you, or Josh Allen, or some of these other guys that should scare you. Saquon Barkley just doesn't scare me. He's a guy. I think he's a good back, but I'm not looking at, who am I looking at here? I'm not looking at Curtis Martin, right? He's going to grind me down. I'm just not a Saquon Barkley guy. And Jalen Hurts. I don't think Jalen Hurts has looked right since the Super Bowl 2 years ago. If you saw the last pass he threw in Super Bowl 57, yeah, I don't know. He just didn't look right to me. So the Eagles don't scare me. Week 13, December 1st, Rams go to New Orleans. Always a tough place to play because, it's so soon since Katrina, and that city could really use a shot in the arm, right? I think the Saints have been doing it with smoke and mirrors these last couple of years. The fact that they're in the NFC South has kept them relevant. I think if they had been in the West, if they're in the North right now, people would be, they'd be doing a full rebuild. They've got age. Derek Carr looks like a shell-shocked quarterback these days. I like some of their receivers. I like Chris Olave. Alvin Kamara, that guy doesn't seem to me to pack the juice he used to pack. And Rams should win that, and they should win it without Nikel Roby-Coleman, and I think they will. Week 14, December 8th, Rams get the Bills at home. That means the Rams aren't going to Orchard Park. They're not playing in blizzard conditions. And Buffalo feels like it's going to be even more Josh Allen dependent as it looks right now. By week 14, we'll see how it changes. But right now, I like the Rams against the Bills. Week 15, December 12th, that's a short week. So the Rams play on Sunday at home. And then in week 15, they go to Levi Stadium to play the 49ers, where I think the Rams win in week 3, but the 49ers are going to be looking for payback depending on what condition they're in, right? Again, can Trent Williams and George Kittle stay healthy? Those guys mostly stayed healthy last year. They really did. And here's the other one you have to ask. Can Christian McCaffrey have a 3rd consecutive injury-free season? That's asking a lot right now. It's asking a lot. So right now, I'm going to give Frisco that win. I'm going to respect the fact they are still a playoff team. They're still a viable team. I think they're coming back to the pack a little bit, but I'm going to give Frisco that win. Short week for the Rams and everything. But the benefit of doing that as the Rams go into week 16 is they get the Jets on December 22nd. So they get that mini bye. It's not a full bye, but you get 10 days off before you go to New York to play the Jets in a 10 a.m. start, which is good. I like the 10 a.m. start if there's a possibility of weather, right? The interesting thing here is that's kind of in that part of the season where someone could say, man, Aaron Rodgers and them are having a great year. We could flex this game to Sunday night to get rid of a dog and move that game there. Then that one becomes a little problematic. It's another emotion game. It's another game that, the sun goes down. There could be weather issues. So it'll be interesting how this one plays out. But you're giving the Rams 10 days off before and Sean McVay 10 days to scout and get everything ready, game plan for the Jets. And then week 17 and 18, the Rams get the Cardinals and Seahawks at home. And I think they should win those games, right? I think the Rams should probably go 5-1 in division. 4-2 maybe, but I think 5-1 seems very possible. Think of it, Seattle has a new head coach, the McDonald kid from Baltimore, late of Michigan. And there is some uncertainty at quarterback. I like Sam Harrell, but Geno Clark has been played, and I don't think there's anything he shows that people haven't figured out yet. And they're kind of squandering this moment. Seattle has squandered this moment. I expected them by this season to be a contender after what they did in 2022. And I thought they treaded water last year, and they needed to make a move when they could for a quarterback, and they just didn't. I think they got a false sense of security with Geno Smith. And I like Geno Smith, but we know what he is. And, Sam Harrell is going there, and he might be able to sting you a little bit, but they don't feel like a threat right now. The Cardinals do play hard for their head coach Gannon. And this team, I do believe that they are on the right track. But the ace in the hole for the Rams and all opponents is Kyler Murray, right? Kyler Murray is a splash quarterback. He will make a play that's unbelievable, and everyone will drink the emotional Kool-Aid of thinking he is a great quarterback. He's not. He's a good quarterback who makes a splash play. But if you're looking for consistency, and then again, I'm still not over the body language stuff. I'm just not over it, and I just wouldn't trust my franchise to him. But guess what? They are hitched with the money they're paying him. The key for this team, I know we got Marvin Harrison Jr., but the key for this team is James Conner. James Conner is a heck of a back. But the problem with James Conner, he's got a lot of mileage. He's got a lot of mileage on those tires, and he does seem to get banged up a little bit each year. But James Conner, often overused word is beast. And they do have a suspect defense that's slowly improving. I think the Cardinals could be a year away, but whatever it was, they played hard with Josh Dobbs last year. And when it seemed like they sold everything out, and when they traded him for that 6th round pick, it seemed like it was over. They still played hard. They played hard from start to finish. The Cards are a team to keep an eye on, maybe in 2025 and 2026. I think it's too soon right now. And then you look at Frisco again, and we're going to look at their schedules as well. But Frisco has moved on from Eric Armstead and all those investments they made to beef up their pass rush last year, right? Trey Young is gone. Chase Young gone. Chase Young's gone. Randy Gregory's gone. And they've augmented with a 32-year-old former Ram, Leonard Floyd, who's not bad, but we know Floyd holds the edge. He doesn't really come after the quarterback. Yeah, he's okay, right? He's okay, but he's just Leonard Floyd. He's good, and he's 32 now. Dre Greenlaw is probably, I read a report today that says he's probably going to start the season on the PUP list, which means he's going to be gone for a month to start the season, let alone what's he going to be when he comes back. They did sign Avondre Campbell from the Packers to play there with Fred Warner. And then Bosa. I don't know. Well, what is Bosa? That guy disappeared from Christmas to the Super Bowl without getting a sack. And 49ers, they're not scaring me. Trent Williams is going to be 36 when the season starts. He's at left tackle, so he's going to keep defying age, which every year I say the same thing, and he keeps defying his age. And then there's Colton McKivitz at right tackle, and he's not special. He's just not, right? And this year at right tackle, he's going to have Braden Fisk lined up over him, high motor guy, strong, and then you're going to have Jared Verse just to the outside of him. High motor, strong. He's not a speed guy. He's a bull guy. And so that's going to be causing some problems for Frisco, let alone against other teams, not just the Rams. George Kittle turns 31 in October. He's always banged up, and he was pretty ineffective against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And then they did draft Ricky Pearsall at number 31. Do you draft a receiver at 31 to stay on the bench, or are you going to show a little more 11 personnel this year with Ayuk, who has not been traded yet, Deebo Samuel, who's not been traded yet, and then Pearsall? And so are you going to go a little more 11 personnel? Will Jusic, the fullback, get as much playing time? And if Jusic's not in there, when you're running 11 personnel, you're not necessarily as physical as you've been in the past. And that's just something to think about about the 49ers. That to me is really curious about what it's going to be like for the 49ers. I know I see questions building, guys. We're going to get to them. So I'm going to get to this because Tim Burns, our good friend Tim Burns, loyal RamView follower, sent me his list of what he thought the Rams were going to turn out this year, how it looked. Before we get to injuries, because we don't know what's going to happen with injuries. We know there's going to be election madness and there could be another pandemic. You never know what's going to happen these days because it's an election year. So everything's out of whack. So just projecting how it stands now, I see the Rams at worst 11-6. That's where I see them next year or this fall at worst 11-6. I feel like I can make an argument, a legitimate argument for 14-3. But I want to stay humble, and I'm going to keep my high end at 13-4. Last year, I thought definitely Rams were going to get 7 wins. I thought 8-9, 9-8, and I thought if everything goes perfect, they're going to be 10-7. Everything didn't go perfect, but they still finished 10-7. They got some wins that we didn't expect. A lot's going to have to happen to go 14-3. That's the very, very high end, right? But I could see this team no worse than 11-6. I could see them in that 12-5, 13-4 range this season. The Rams are a better team this year. And I know it's heresy to say, even without Aaron Donald, the Rams, and I think they're going to have a kicker this year, which could allow them to pick off one more win than they did. You could probably give the Rams 2 more wins last year if they had a kicker, and they would have been 12-5 instead of 10-7. So anyway, that's where I see it. Welcome your opinion, and I welcome your shots, because I probably deserve it. Manuel Correa feeling 12-5. Okay. Yeah. I like this one. USA Expat. How many teams are on our schedule are saying, damn, we have to play the Rams? Yeah, I'm thinking so, right? I'm thinking so. Manuel Correa, that score sounds right. I think you're talking about the Rams record. USA Expat. How many Rams players will play in the Lions opener not featured in the preseason? Love this about McVay. I think everybody's going to be good to go unless they're injured. I think all hands are on deck. And I agree. There is something about you got to hit with intent. But man, it's just awkward, right? It's just awkward. You got to play to have the edge, but you can't play this game half-heartedly, right? That's how you get hurt. And so it is an issue there. It is that little quandary. And I think 17 games allows you to give one away, and it doesn't overly hurt your season. I'm not saying the Rams are going to give this one away, but yeah, I think it's always an issue. That's why they have those joint practices. Remember when, there was some heat there back in, what was that, 22, when the Rams played the Bengals and Aaron Donald was swinging his helmet, right? So those joint practices, which I think, is it Houston? I saw the Rams preseason schedule. It's the Cowboys, Raiders, and or Chargers. Cowboys, Chargers, and Houston, but the Rams go to Houston. And so I think they're having joint practices. That's probably where they get their edge on a little bit. Hey, what didn't we lose? Didn't the Rams lose to the Broncos 41-0 in week 3 of the preseason last year? And everyone was preaching their Jeremiahs that it's the end of the world. It's the end of the world. The sky is falling. Yeah, right. I do. McVay changed the NFL, right, by not playing those guys. Inevitably, you got to move the season to 18 games. And if you're going to move the season to 18 games, then let there be one preseason game, scrimmage type game, and then play it out and get this settled. 17-game season is just ridiculous. Baseball does better with those anomalies and different things at their parks and those little nuances until they got all conformist and made the DH universal. Baseball was good at that, but that's never been football. Football's been much more schematiced out, and I think that's not good. Let's see here. Manuel Correa, Verse and Frisk. Turner will take care of Caleb. Oh, okay, yeah. I wanted to talk about Caleb Williams a little bit because I heard somebody was talking like, oh, they could win the NFC North and they could be a threat in the playoffs. And I was like, I wanted to heed the words of the wolf. Let's not, just yet. Joe Kim, good to have you, Joe Kim. I wanted Higgs to have a revenge game against the Lions. I so doubt he will be back by week 1. I like the slate though. Yeah, he's not going to be back. I mean, we're talking about Tyler Higbee. Yeah, he's not. I mean, unless there's some miracle there, he's not. But good to hear from you, Joe Kim. USA Expat. At Arizona, the Rams should reserve an entire section for the family and friends of verse. There you go. Yeah, I don't think McVay has lost in Arizona. I don't think he's lost in Arizona. The Rams lost at home in 21 and 22 to the Cardinals, but they haven't lost in the McVay era in Arizona. Correct me if I'm wrong. Somebody out there, correct me if I'm wrong. USA Expat at Jets, Rams will show off their outstanding running offense. If the weather is bad, see that there's the pivot, right? There's the pivot. That gap scheme, it's a little more punishing, a little more brutal, and stuff is just bang bang instead of that read and then cut. So I do like it, and it's built. I think that gap scheme is built better for cold weather. And I was just talking with our sponsor today, Paul Kistler, and we were talking about how strong the Rams running game has been in the past in the Gurley era, CJ Anderson too, with Sean McVay, and McVay loves to run the ball. Now, imagine if the Rams running game becomes powerful, and then you open those doors and those windows and those passing lanes for a quarterback like Matthew Stafford. It's really optimistic here, really optimistic. Okay, Bill, the big difference between last year's schedule is only 2 times we play teams coming off buys compared to 6. Was it 6 last year? Doggone. I didn't realize that. Good work, Bill. I had lost track of that. Totally. Good work. Gilbert Gonzalez with the bigger, better O-line and all the D we got in the draft. The Rams look better this year than last. Donald hurts not being there, but let's hope he misses football after the bye. And here we go. Hey, to your from your lips to Aaron Donald's ears. Yeah. And the nice part about this Ram improvement is it's in the middle. It's in the interior. Jonah Jackson, Steve Avila, and Kevin Dotson, the Rams. And they're so nothing's going to be coming up the middle on Stafford, or shouldn't be coming up the middle on Stafford. And that's where a quarterback needs to be protected, because they can sense the edges, and that gives them opportunity to step in the pocket and get rid of the ball. I do think this is a better team. Fully agree with you, GC, on that one. Willie Bowen, LA Rams revenge on Detroit Lions, Buffalo Bills, and Green Bay Packers, 12-3. Okay, are you saying like maybe 12-5 this year? I do see a 12-5. That's very plausible. I don't go back to that Detroit game. I just don't want the emotion spent on it. It's not worth the emotion in week 1. It's another football game. Can you turn it into another football game? I don't know, but I would just say it's another football game. I'm not playing for Higbee. I'm not playing to prove a point. I'm not playing to win a playoff spot. I'm definitely not winning a Super Bowl. It's week 1 in the NFL, happens to be on Sunday night, and I just want the emotion out of it. There's always emotion in football, but you know what I'm saying. I don't want this high, and this deflation to come. There we go here. Let's see. Manuel Correa, I'm feeling we're going to be a better overall team without AD. Can't double team anyone anymore. Okay, there we go. So I'm not crazy when I say the Rams are going to be a better team without AD. Of course, Willie and Manny say hi. All right. Bill, do you think having McVay on the competition committee helps us get better calls on the field? I don't know. I really don't know. Now, I used to believe that about Shula, right? I used to believe that Shula always got the benefit of the doubt. I don't know. Maybe if McVay picks off a 3rd Super Bowl appearance and a 2nd ring, maybe it does. But I do not know, Bill. That's a good point. Steve Ramirez, 18 games, 2 buys. All right. I'm good with that. I do like to see it staggered, though, where 8 teams are off 1 week and then another 8 teams are off the next week. So you don't have weeks that there are no games being played. But if you're going to go 18 games, and I'm just surprised the Players Union doesn't start putting their foot down. And again, the fraudulence of the Players Union. Anyway, I like that one. Willie Bowen, there should be statues of Fearsome Foursome, Lawrence McCutcheon, and Henry Ellard. Hey, I got no problem with that. But do you put Roger Brown, or you just keep it Rosie Greer after 66? Do you bring in Coy Bacon? Can we get the original Fearsome Foursome with maybe coming in the background? You got Roger Brown and Deke and Coy Bacon. Maybe we can get a Fearsome Foursome with two reserves right behind them there. But always in on McCutcheon and Ellard. Joakim Matsom, I think you're right about the Rams being better team this year if they don't catch the injury bug. They could definitely go. Oh, see, there is. Thank you, Joakim, all the way across the pond there. There is a possibility there. Thank you for seeing that. Now, it's all injuries and everything else and how good some of these other teams play. I think some of the teams they're expecting to be good in this league this year are not going to be. And then there's going to be other teams that could be kind of surprising. I totally agree with that. Manuel Correa, let there be carnage. There we go. I'm down. Willie Bowen's down too. Tom Wilson, Kyler Murray can't see over his offensive line. He is barely 5'7". He will never be a franchise quarterback in the NFL. You know, I think he can be better than he is. I think he can be better than he is. I just can't get that 2021 playoff wildcard game. Boy, I've never seen, I mean, you have to go back to high school level coverage. I've never seen a quarterback quit on his team uninjured like he quit on his team in that game. And I don't want to hear it different. That dude just didn't want anymore. There used to be the saying that there were some talented kids in our area that played football, and they were fast, and they looked really good in a uniform. And then all of a sudden, they disappear in the fourth quarter, and some of their coaches say, hey, man, what happened to so-and-so? What happened? And, he didn't want anymore. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, he didn't want to get hit anymore. That was just it. I don't want anymore. And that's what Kyler Murray looks like to me. Now, maybe that's a maturity thing. Maybe he grows up, and I think it's really got to be shown this year because they are heavily invested in him. But he's a splash quarterback. He'll make a great play that'll go, wow. But he'll, as they say, he'll miss the layups, right? I hear Chick Hearn going, he blow the layup, right? I do believe that. Good call, Tom Wilson. Dano, looking forward on beating the Packers at SoFi. Yeah, finally, right? Finally, getting them here instead of Lambeau. 20, 21, 22, 23. All those games are at Lambeau, and we're getting them here. Was that 2017 or 2018 the last time the Packers came to LA? I think it was Super Bowl season, 2018. And that was, they fumbled the kickoff or something. And I'd have to look it up, put it in my notes. All I know, if it wasn't a loss. If it had been a loss, I probably would have remembered everything detailed because I'm bitter like that. But it was a win. I put it in the closet. And I enjoyed it. When there's a loss that I'm bitter about, Cincy last year on Monday night, then I do remember all the little details. It's small sometimes. I'm a small person. Let's see. Bill. Do the Brefs owe us a few calls last year's playoffs, bad calls? Yeah, I don't think you're going to get them. But yeah, I think so, And then there's that whole thing of regular season, postseason, let them play. You know what I don't want to see is I don't want to see a flag on a hip drop tackle. And we're going to see it, and our minds are going to explode, right? Our minds are going to explode. And, because for some reason, because the NFL has no competition, so they can put in these inane, ridiculous rules. Willie Bowen, Purdy will be on back courtesy of the LA Rams law firm of Verse, Fisk, and Jones and Brown. Okay, I hope to see it. I think Purdy's being figured out slowly but surely. Everyone knows he processes, and they know there's an arrangement to what he does and or an order to what he does. And he's a really good quarterback. 3 times he brought the 49ers back against the Chiefs in that Super Bowl last year. Tied it and put them ahead. Whatever happened in that Super Bowl was not Brock Purdy's fault. Was not, I repeat, Brock Purdy's fault. I look a little more to Shanahan, who got outgeneraled by Andy Reid. Okay, we got our questions in. I did want to talk about the Bears right now and Caleb Williams. I was listening to something. I can't remember. When I'm on the road, I'm kind of changing channels, listening to things, and kind of soft prepping for the show. And there was talk about, oh man, Keenan Allen and DJ Moore and all the guys they got, Swift and everything, and the better offensive line and stuff, and like they're going to be this year's Houston Texans. And they were talking about the Bears' schedule and everything, and I think it's not a hard schedule, but they were dismissing games against the Rams, dismissing games against the Houston Texans. And the Houston Texans are legit. I think the Houston Texans are legit. I'd be really surprised if the Houston Texans stepped back because they've made some great moves this offseason. I don't know. I just think, sometimes people buy in way too quick. I am pro Caleb Williams. I not have a problem with Caleb Williams, but is Keenan Allen going to stay healthy? Right. And then they've got games this year where they get off to a fast start and then they crash and burn. What were the Cardinals in 2021? Were they 10-0, 9-0, 11-1, something like that? And then they crashed and burned down the stretch when it got serious. And most of the Bears I think NFC North games are in the second half. And, the Lions aren't a joke. The Packers aren't a joke. The Vikings are well coached. They're not just going to roll over and die to give a great story to Caleb Williams. And who's going to be healthy on that Bears team? And they got a head coach who's a defensive head coach, and it's going to be their first year playing on the big stage, right? And it takes you a year. Here's the interesting thing when you track the Rams, right? And people brought this up, but it's fascinating. 2017, the Rams, 2016, Rams didn't make the playoffs. That's when McVay's not there, right? 2017, they make the playoffs. They get bounced. 2018, they go to the Super Bowl. 2019, they miss the playoffs. 2020, they make the playoffs, steal a win in Seattle, lose in Lambeau because Jared Goff has a bad thumb, a lot of courage there playing in that game. And also Aaron Donald had the ribcage injury and Cooper Kupp had the knee. Rams lose in Lambeau. 2021, they go to the Super Bowl. 2022, they miss the playoffs. 2023, they make the playoffs. And now 2024, be really interesting to see if the Rams end up in the Super Bowl again if you follow that formula. So pretty fascinating stuff there if you want to get into that a little bit. All right. Let's see. Let's look at a couple of questions here. Joakim Madsen. I don't like the bye week in week 6, but how the 2 Thursday night games give the Rams 2 mini buys. They are favorable spots in the second half of the season. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. I had to do a double take before because I said I hate week 6 buys. But then, you got that game especially going to the Jets late in the season, chance to get focused. You got a mini buy there. You got the mini buy earlier than that too. So yeah, I do. I hear you totally on that, Joakim. Manuel Correa, I'm saying it. Jared Verse, Rookie of the Year. Yeah, I'd like to say that, but it seems like Kobe Turner should have been Rookie of the Year last year, but it depends on where you're drafted. I don't know if there's some kind of investment in that or not. You think Will Anderson had a better year than Kobe Turner? I don't think so. He might end up having a better career. He might still be a great player, but Kobe Turner was the Defensive Player of the Year in my book. Okay, let's look at on the State and Rams history for Steve Ramirez. This was the date in 1969. The Rams traded a 4th and a 3rd and a guy named Lee Callan to the Chicago Bears, of all places, for Richie Pettibone. Pettibone was a safety, was there when George Allen was in Chicago, had a great decade there playing for the Bears, multiple Pro Bowls, and he gave the Rams 2 solid seasons in 69 and 70. He ended up with the Redskins and with Allen a year later. He had kind of retired, tried to come back, didn't work out, but he ended up getting traded to the Redskins as well. Also on this date in 1974, Lance Rentzel. Now, if you're a true Ram fan or old Ram fan, you're all true Ram fans. The wide receiver was reinstated from suspension. And it was interesting because, Rentzel had like 3 outstanding seasons for the Cowboys, including 1969, where he had in 68 and 67, he had caught over 50 passes each one of those years. This is the 60s when you're running the ball, but he's catching passes from Meredith in those years. And then in 69, he grabbed 43 passes and averaged 22 yards a catch for 12 touchdowns. And this is playing alongside Bullet Bob Hayes. So that was a pretty powerful Cowboys offense there, pretty potent. And then he got in trouble. He got popped for indecent exposure, and Landry ended up trading him to the Rams to get him into a new environment. And he was put on probation for that. He was sent to the Rams for tight end Billy Truex and wide receiver Wendell Tucker. True was served as a backup to Ditka there, and then Billy Joe Dupree in Cowboy land didn't do a whole lot, and Wendell Tucker didn't even make the team. I don't know what happened to him. He never played it down for the Cowboys after he gave the Rams some good seasons. But Rentzel played 3 seasons with the Rams, 71 and 72. Nothing too great. But of course, that was the team's downfall decline after the Allen departure and the Prothro arrival. And then Gabriel was hurt. And then in 72, after the 72 season, Rentzel got popped for marijuana possession. So while he's on probation for the indecent exposure, which let's say he exposed himself to a 10-year-old girl, kind of weird, lost his wife, Joey Heatherton, because of that. He was suspended for all of 73. And then he came back, played for the Rams in 74, There were moments he looked pretty good, caught a touchdown pass, caught 18 passes, which 18 passes in Chuck Knox offense as the second receiver or the third receiver, because you still had Jack Snow. That was pretty good. And then he got cut in August of 75, and his career was pretty much over. But I looked up what was going on with Lance Rentzel afterwards, and he ended up, I think, going into real estate, but he's lived a quiet life since then. And so far, there's been no revisitism. He hasn't done it again, his exposure to young people. He got psychological help, I was told, but he's lived a kind of a quiet life, and so I couldn't find anything on him. When I was a kid, we had the book that he wrote called When All the Laughter Died in Sorrow, and I was too young to read it, but I think I'm going to get my hands on that book. I think I'm going to read it because pretty raw stories there. But this was the day that Lance Rentzel was reinstated. May 19th, 1971 was when he was traded to the Rams. So I wanted to get that in there. Happy birthday to Nick Scott, former Ram safety. He turns 29 today. Nick Scott's 29. Since we're not on the air tomorrow, I did want to throw this one in. May 18th, Robert Quinn turns 34 tomorrow. Robert Quinn gave the Rams some good years. And then the Rams earlier in the spring of 72 used a 14th round draft pick on a defensive tackle. And I never really list the signings of draft picks. I figure when they're drafted, they're yours. But this one is unique because he was a 14th round pick, number 355 overall, and he signed his contract on this date. Tomorrow, May 18th, 1972. His name was Larry Brooks. Larry Brooks, one of the more very much underrated defensive tackles of the 1970s. And I will argue, as I've argued with others, if the Rams pick off a Super Bowl appearance, one other Super Bowl appearance in the mid-70s there, to go along with the Super Bowl 14, I think Larry Brooks gets some Hall of Fame consideration. Larry Brooks was that good. Larry Brooks was very good. I just wanted to throw that name out there. I always love mentioning Larry Brooks. And since we're not on the air on Sunday, which is May 19th, I did want to throw a birthday out there. London Fletcher will be turning 49. One of the saddest days in St. Louis Rams history, I think it was a turning point, is when they decided they didn't need London Fletcher anymore. And then Fletcher just goes on to have truly what should be a Hall of Fame career with the Bills and the Redskins. And I'm always going to be a London Fletcher fan. I guess they figured they didn't need to put him in. Did Sam Mills get in the Hall of Fame? But London Fletcher should be definitely in the Hall of Fame. But I mentioned May 19th because in May 19th, 1983, Burt Jones retired because of the neck injury he incurred in 1982. And Burt Jones, I was a huge Burt Jones fan. In fact, even if you heard Belichick talk, Burt Jones is John Elway before there's a John Elway. He was great in Baltimore, led that post-Unitas resurgence. They made the playoffs and won the East 1975, 76, and 77. Problem is they kept running into the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so they couldn't get past that. And the Raiders, they ran into the Raiders. But here was the thing. People give the Rams a hard time about that trade. But in his last two seasons with a bad Baltimore team, Burt Jones threw 44 touchdown passes, threw for over 6,000 yards, and he played in 30 games. That means he only missed one game each in 1980 and 1981. Now, he had a lot of injuries in 78, 79, but he had clearly come back. And so when the Rams made the deal, there was no reason to think that Burt Jones wasn't healthy, right? But I still also think, Ram fans still had that emotional connection because the same year that Jones came, Ferragamo came back, the prodigal came back from his time in Montreal. And that was a prodigal experience for Ferragamo in Montreal. But Jones played 4 games for the Rams, threw 2 touchdown passes and 4 picks, had the injury, and then on May 19th, 1983, he announced his retirement. Kind of ironic because the Rams made the deal for Burt Jones. They also they got 4 games out of him. They only got 4 games out of Joe Namath as well. Burt Jones had 4 games, 2 touchdowns, 4 picks. Joe Namath had 4 games, 3 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and neither one of them played after week 4. Boom, that was it, right? And they did not make another appearance for the Rams. To get Jones, the Rams gave up a 1st and 2nd round pick in the 1982 draft. The number 4 overall pick went to the Colts, and they took quarterback Art Schlichter. And then the Colts' second round pick, number 34 overall, they took punter Roan Stark. Now, you might know about Schlichter, but Roan Stark was one of the more dominant punters of the 80s. He's not really a Ray guy, but he played 13 seasons for the Colts, 16 in the NFL, multiple Pro Bowls, was an all-pro. He was a really highly athletic, in the Ray guy mold punter. But I always wondered, like, what could the Rams have gotten? And if you look at the 82 draft, it's not a great draft. The 83 draft is like this last year's draft in 2024. The 82 draft was not deep at all. But what could the Rams have done if they held on to number 4? Well, Jim McMahon went number 5 overall to the Bears. I don't know what difference that would have made, but that's an interesting one. Mike Munchak, the guard for the Oilers, who ended up in the Hall of Fame, he was drafted 8th overall, although the Rams' offensive line was pretty set at that point. And then at number 10 overall, Marcus Allen went to the Raiders. Thinking of how the Rams were, and who was calling the shots, it is surprising they bypassed Marcus Allen. But remember, the word was Marcus Allen was too slow. He wasn't fast enough. And the Raiders took him at number 10. And you wonder, if the Rams had taken Marcus Allen at number 10, then there never would have been Eric Dickerson with the Rams. The Rams did maintain another first-round pick, number 14 overall. They took Barry Redden, and he sure didn't prevent the Rams from drafting Eric Dickerson. Also, just on mention of that second-round pick the Rams gave away, future Hall of Fame linebacker Andre Tippett went to the Patriots, number 41 overall, and the Rams could have had a shot at him, and he might have been pretty unique to have at linebacker. But just the previous year, you had drafted in 81 Jim Owens and I think Mel Owens, and then also Jim Collins, I think second round or third round. So anyway, I thought that stuff was interesting to throw out there. We are at the 56-minute mark. Let's see here. Manuel Correa, speaking about Jared Verse, Braden Fisk is going to help Verse get Rookie of the Year. I do believe. Willie Bowen, who's going to get more reception yardage and TDs, Kupp or Nakua? Whoever stays healthy, right? I would lean towards Nakua because he's a younger body, and Kupp hasn't been healthy since 2021. But, there's that, Stafford has a great rapport with all of them. And you know what? They're team guys, right? They're total team guys. So I don't know. I really don't know. I would lean Nakua at this point just because of the age factor, the mileage, but it is something to think about. Let's see. Thomas Wilson, do you like Bo Limmer? He squatted 700 pounds, very impressive, bench press 39. Yeah, I do. Not on my radar. I was there with Steve Ramirez thinking about Hunter Norzad and from Penn State at center. And then the Rams scored Limmer. You need the background. He played in the SEC, played for Arkansas. I'm happy with that because the Rams didn't have much. Maybe Grant Miller, Mike McAllister. There was no backup center on this roster. And I hope Bo Limmer makes the squad, and the Rams have legitimate depth on that offensive line. And 700 pounds is frightening, man, to squat it that many times. That is frightening. Yeah, very impressive. Dano, Limmer is one strong dude. I wonder he dropped to the 6th round. I think I read something that was it his height? They were worried about him leverage-wise. I can't remember what it was. But I also know that there were so many skill players in this draft that so many other players were pushed to the back. And so maybe in another year, Limmer would have been a 4th-round pick, and that's why he dropped. Okay. Joakim Madsen, Kupp is back with a vengeance. I think he'll have more than Puka, but it might be close. I like how Puka has evolved as receiver last year. He was much better receiver at the end of the year. Total gold, Puka is. The only thing that I worry about Puka is he does play that physical game, right? I love them using the jet sweep with him, right? And he rumbles down the field. It looks like Steven Jackson. He's looking for contact, and it's beautiful, but I don't want to have it happen. And he's just physical. And you worry, how long can he last? He's like our version of Debo. And I don't want to see him get hurt. That's the part that scares me. Kupp, I think Kupp has a lot to prove. And I think this is the year to do it. And then, if it doesn't happen, then Rams go heavy in receiver next year. But I'm interested in Jordan Whittington. I think the Rams fully believe in this guy. I do. Let's see. Joe Kim Manson, Limmer, Fisk, and Verse are athletic freaks. Great draft in 24. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, Manny and Joe Kim are wishing each other a nice weekend. Joe Kim Matson, I should go to bed. I'm taking the kids to Legoland tomorrow. All right, man. Have a great trip and be blessed. Willie Bowen, take care. And okay, guys, I think we're going to roll. Unless anyone has a question here, I have gone to the 1 hour mark. I do not go to 1 hour. I'll give you a couple of seconds here to ask me a question. We are going to be live again on Monday. And I thank you guys for your support. Please check out my books on Amazon. We don't hide behind a paywall. We don't have a Patreon account. So any support you give us really, really helps us. And all right, I think we're good. Guys, have a great weekend. And we will talk to you soon. Go Rams.